Hello, and welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. I'm April Mansky, and I'm here today with...
Justin DeClue.
And Colin Cunningham.
And we're recording to you... Oh my gosh, what was that?
Oh my God. Sorry, I've got a cough.
We're recording to you remotely today because we're doing our part.
I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
Are you doing your part?
We're practicing some social distancing, so Colin and I are in the normal recording studio, and Justin's coming in remote from his home studio.
From the hot zone.
Recording studio. Yeah.
It just
From
makes
ground zero.
Just makes it sound cooler.
Yeah.
If anybody's in the hot zone, it's you guys.
Yeah.
Right downtown.
Yeah.
I'm sitting 6 feet away from April.
Wait, so when you go outside, are the streets empty or is it just normal like every day?
They weren't empty the other day. We were walking around on Sunday, but people who live in my area kind of are like posting pictures of like empty streets and stuff. So it's not totally deserted, but it's definitely less than normal.
People still have to get out and about and, take their dogs for walks and stuff like that. So you see a lot of people just walking around. And I guess like certain people, people have to go to grocery stores and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I see a lot of older people walking around because they're like, it doesn't affect me.
Oh God,
that's absolutely not what you should be doing. So if anyone who's listening who is over 60, please don't leave your house unless you absolutely have to.
Wait, should I stay in?
Oh man, I think one of my first thoughts when this happened was I could make some old jokes with Colin, and he beat me to it.
Yeah,
the mind is still sharp. My friend texted me the other day. He said this is the perfect time to film like in a post-apocalyptic movie because you can just get your drone out and shoot stuff. You're never going to see like the highways completely empty.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Do not take your drone out. No one wants drone in feature films.
Yeah, just in general, it's true. Drone is a little overused.
All right. So what do we watch this week, April?
Well, this was our Bad Movie Lottery winning episode. So we had the Patreon draw, and the winner was a person named BDA. And I just want to say thank you for donating to the Patreon and being a patron. And so they decided to give us a little bit of an easier film, as they said. And it is a Japanese movie called The Calamari Wrestler. From what year?
2004.
2004.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and compared to the other movies, this was mercifully entertaining. So thank you very much for choosing this movie.
We're kind of overstating how bad the picks have been, but this was by far the most entertaining.
Well, some of them were so bad we had to enact the it can't be longer than 2 hours rule.
That's mostly because we got like a 3.5 hour movie, even though I liked Doom. But I just wanted to say also that like the time limit isn't on every movie that we do. It was just for the listener request, so we don't get really, really long movies.
It's because we got like 3 or 4 in a row that were like longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes.
It's true. So this movie, The Calamari Wrestler, Justin, you know a little more about Japanese movies, I'm guessing, than we do.
I would have thought that you would have been the Japanese expert. You seem like someone that would have learned Japanese. Because you like anime and stuff like that.
Yeah, if it was offered in my high school, absolutely would. But I really don't know a ton about the Japanese film world. I mostly just know a little bit about anime, although this movie, I could like picture it in my head as an anime and it would totally be the same, and it was awesome, but we'll get to that. Does anyone know anything about this director?
Yeah, so I actually saw this movie when it came out, and it was in a wave that this director had. He had Calamari Wrestler, Crab Goalkeeper, and Executive Koala.
I had written those. I wrote those exact movies down too.
And he continued from there. He made a movie called Rug Cop, which was about a cop who uses his toupee as a weapon.
Oh my God.
He did a parody film in the 70s, or maybe even 60s. There was a big Japanese blockbuster called The Sinking of Japan. He made a parody film called Everything Sinks But Japan.
So it was a comedy, right?
Wait, did he do...
Yeah, it's a comedy.
Did he do Wolf Cop?
No, he did not do Wolf Cop. That is Canada's own Wolf Cop.
Yeah, that's a Canadian movie.
My favorite anecdote about that is somebody said they were at a party and someone came up to them who ended up being the producer of Wolf Cop, and he went, "Wolf Cop 2 just got greenlit for a sequel." Oh!
He howled.
Which made me laugh so hard, and I think about it all the time. How many times must he have howled within the production of Wolf Cop and Wolf Cop 2?
Yeah, he's just trying to spark up some excitement, I guess.
I guarantee. When he called "That's a Rap," a movie rap, the whole crew.
Maybe every day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure they
Wolf
weren't sick of
Cop.
that.
All right, so moving on. I'm a little bit bummed that this director seems to have disappeared like off the map. He seems to just do like his last film looks like a sexploitation kind of thing, like a direct-to-video. Yeah.
Sex cop.
I mean, these films were direct-to-video as well. They were not made for theatrical distribution, which is why it looks a little cheap.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, it is a little on the low budget side, but that gives it some charm.
So what's the plot of this movie, April?
Well, it's a very simple plot that is kind of complicated a little bit with some supernatural aspects that I don't fully understand. But basically, it's about wrestling in Japan, and there were these two wrestlers who were kind of rivals, and one of them beat the other one. And one disappeared because he got an illness. And so then I don't know their names, the bad wrestler, Iwata, he married the first guy's girlfriend, and he's the champion. And it starts off with him winning a fight. And then the Squid just comes into the ring, guy in a big rubber suit.
It happens.
And he defeats him basically, but everyone's like, that fight didn't count. So
it wasn't an official fight.
Yeah. So then they have a rematch, and he wins, and he becomes the Squid champion. But
you're skipping way too much
not
information.
the whole plot, just the premise. Just the premise.
And then the film ends. The end.
Yeah,
Okay, we're done.
There's
Thank
so
you.
much
Wait,
more than that.
I should ask, April, were you ever a fan of wrestling in any form?
No. I've watched wrestling like once ever. I was at a bar with some friends, and they were watching whatever it was, like WWE SmackDown or whatever. And I was like, hey, this is actually kind of cool. Like, I like the theatricalness about it. I like that it's very, like, quote unquote fake, but it's like, it's like written, but the moves are cool. And this almost, but I'm not averse to wrestling. It's just not part of what I grew up with. But this is like,
because it was for dumb guys.
No. I mean,
no, I grew up in the golden age of wrestling. It was,
Yeah, the Attitude Era, right, Colin?
attitude.
Well, I actually went. This is really funny. I actually saw the very first WrestleMania, and it wasn't live, but it was screened live. It was my friend's birthday, and his dad bought a bunch of tickets for WrestleMania 1, but he was being screened at Roy Thompson Hall, which is a
giant place in Toronto.
It's like a concert hall in Toronto,
Yeah.
but they had this big screen TV on stage. It was projected onto this stage. It was like, okay, I'm in a concert hall watching wrestling on TV. It was really funny.
And did the audience, were they like, ah?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And I think we were like front row or second row or something like that. It was just insane.
This sounds like
Have
fun.
you guys seen the amazing clips online of they're still doing wrestling shows right now during this pandemic, but there's no audiences?
Oh god.
Yeah, no, I actually haven't watched any yet, but they look really funny. Is it just they're doing their moves and like trying to play to the crowd that's not there?
Yeah, so at one point Steve Austin is like, can I get a hell yeah? And it just cuts to like an empty audience.
Oh man. Well, they're still they're doing their part.
Yeah,
right?
it's just like the Democratic debates.
They're doing WrestleMania this year to no audience in the WWE training center.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Well, at least people can still watch it, and it can lift their spirits. As weird as it is.
Do they play?
It's gonna be very funny.
Do they play like audience like cheers and noise?
No, nothing. It's just empty.
Oh, that's so weird.
Even weirder.
Yeah. It's like a Death of a Salesman or something up there, where it's like, because they leave pauses to let the audience be like, woo! But so they leave the pauses, and it's just like tenseness as they stare at each other.
Oh no! So if you're just watching this in an empty house alone, it'd just be really, really awkward and creepy.
Yes, exactly.
I should say I watched the Glow TV show, so that's the other wrestling
Oh, yeah, the Glow was
thing.
fun.
Like, I know that's obviously a narrative show, but I enjoy that quite a bit.
I love the idea of wrestling, and I love somebody who knows wrestling a lot explaining it to me. I do not have the patience to watch like 5 hours of wrestling a week.
Yeah, definitely.
Most
I know
of it
people
is
who
filler.
are completely obsessed with it, and I think like I was as a kid. with the Hulk Hogan era and King Kong Bundy and all those guys. And then they had I think it was like Hulk Hogan wrestling cartoon show on Saturday morning.
Yes.
Like it got to that point that it was just so popular and everybody was watching it. And then
it's still popular now. It's just
huge. Yeah, it's huge.
I think it's maybe a little more niche. It's not like everyone watches it, but it has this huge fan base.
Huge fan base around the world. And I just sort of stopped at one point. I just lost interest and moved on with my life. But I know people who are still so into it.
I've been kind of fascinated in the way that, like, in the last 10 years, they've been breaking kayfabe, which is like the term for like a storyline within the ring, which, back in the day, they wouldn't break it. So people would assume it's real. But now they do commentary. They talk about it on Twitter as themselves instead of their characters.
I see.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not that familiar with Japanese wrestling, but that is considered the best version of wrestling is Japanese stuff.
Like Mexico has, the luchadors, which looks way more interesting than North American wrestling to me.
Well, I did notice that as far as the whole like storyline wrestling stuff and how it's like more theater. They say in this movie that the people in charge are like, oh, these fights are predetermined. They're not real. And he's like, the Squid is like, no, I'm incapable of losing. So then it kind of becomes almost like a boxing thing because they're fighting for real and no one knows what's going to happen. Supposedly.
This movie presents wrestling as real.
Yes, it's real for these characters anyway.
I want to be champion. I was, just as you were talking, I was trying to look. Someone once told me that there was a Japanese wrestling federation that's kind of like a joke one, and anyone can win the title belt as long as you pin the current winner. So like a dog has won the belt, a ladder has won a belt, the belt won itself. The belt won itself because it pinned itself.
Oh my god, the silliness is overpowering.
Oh my god, I would watch that. What are you gonna do?
That's funny.
Yeah,
as long as you gave it to me in like a 21-minute episode every week, that'd be perfect.
But yeah, this movie is it's a comedy, but what I love about it is it takes itself very seriously, and that's where the comedy comes from.
Yeah, everything is so straight.
Yeah, there are like a few intentional jokes here and there, but it's not wacky. It's not like it's not a parody like like a scary movie or something like that.
Yeah.
It takes itself quite seriously.
It very rarely kind of relies on the humor of it just being a squid.
Yeah,
wrestling.
it's just a squid in a suit walking around doing normal things, and that's why it's funny.
And that was my fear. It was going in, I'm like, oh no, like it's just going to be, look, he's a squid. That's funny, right? But it was actually, kind of an emotional roller coaster. It was like a very involving movie,
I mean, like by the end of the movie, you want the squid to win. It's very important.
Totally.
It's not like a joke.
Well, they just present him as a normal person.
And so to go back to way into the first act of the movie, so like the squid gets a surprise win on the champion, and then for like 40 minutes there's like arguments about should they let the squid play because it's illegal for squids to fight humans, and someone makes a good argument, wrestlers fight bears all the time
in the olden days, so why not?
Yeah, they used to box with kangaroos,
And, the real backbone of this movie is a story between the woman who... Was she supposed to marry the wrestler that disappeared from public life? I wasn't quite clear on that.
I think so. So Taguchi was the original... He has now been reincarnated into the Calamari Wrestler. Taguchi, I think they were involved in a relationship before, and then he came down with some mystery illness and disappeared.
But now they think that the Calamari Wrestler is Taguchi.
Yeah, because he finishes in the opening. He has like a famous finishing move that he uses.
It's called like a Twilight suplex or something like that.
Yeah, the 25 megaton kick.
Yeah, and everybody recognized. They're like, "Oh my god, that was Taguchi's famous finishing move."
And everybody just accepts that this wrestler has turned into a squid now. It's completely understandable and normal.
I like the, I guess, seafood salesman who's like, ooh, that squid's got a good color.
See, there's jokes like that about that, too. He's like, oh, what does he say? He's like, oh, he shouldn't, like, move too much or that's going to make him taste tough or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very cute.
It was pretty funny, yeah. So then there's like this recurring character who's like a reporter. And they go up to this temple where the Calamari Wrestler is like meditating. And he's got this sort of mysterious manager with looks like a very fake mustache, and he's always wearing reflective sunglasses. And he kind of gives the backstory, but it's like they kind of pick up that he's from a certain place and he likes a certain type of food, just like Taguchi used to. So they kind of like instantly figure out that it's him, and then they have this headline in the newspaper like Taguchi's reincarnated as Squid.
So I kept waiting for there to be a twist and it not to be Taguchi. I think we got the name squidded up, switched around as well.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Iwata is
right.
the Calamari Wrestler.
Iwata is the Calamari Wrestler.
Yeah.
Taguchi is the
rival.
So
the rival.
I kept expecting to be like, oh, the Calamari Wrestler is not actually Iwata, but no, it just ended up being him.
Yeah.
There's no big twist.
Yeah, but that's the first act, and going into the second act, the twist is when he shows up to the fight to fight Taguchi.
Well, we haven't even...
Yeah. We didn't get to the best part.
Got there yet.
What's the best part?
That he gives into his desires before the big wrestling match.
Yeah. So there's 2 wrestling matches in this movie, but the first one is Taguchi versus Iwata, right? And so as a Squid, he meets up with his old girlfriend and she recognizes him right away, and she wants to date him again, and she's totally fine that he's a Squid. There's like a meta joke in here about tentacle porn. Like, it's not really said, but it's just understood that she will have sex with a Squid, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, and there's like a big montage of them like walking in the sunset,
it's like
and
a dating
hanging
montage.
out and laughing.
It's so funny.
Yeah, you could picture it in like a Naked Gun movie or something like that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's no jokes other than she's just on a walking date with a
and
squid.
like the squid will like move back and forth in a really funny way, and then like gesticulate with its tentacles in front of it. Like, you could this, by the way, the squid just has legs and wears boots.
Yeah, he wears wrestling boots.
That's right. And so they end up in their apartment, and the squid can't control himself, and they make sweet love in front of a psychedelic backdrop.
Yeah, and his manager warns him before, if you can't give in to the temptations of this world, and you got to watch yourself. It's just like boxers, I guess. They always warn them, don't have sex before a match.
I think it also has to do with like monks and how they're supposed to kind of give up any earthly desire, and so they can reach enlightenment. And I think that has something to do with how he was able to somehow transcend death and become a squid.
And they have sex, and he wakes up the next morning as a human being.
Oh no,
he's a man.
But they fix that pretty fast. He goes back to the monk's temple, and it's a painful process, but he gets turned back into a squid.
Yeah, or they have to ring the bell, like the gong.
Yes,
he has to
right.
focus intensely, and then they kind of ring the bell.
Inside the bell while they ring it 250 times, and that would hurt, dude.
Yeah, and at one point they have to start over again, and he's like sweating. So this is what I'm curious about. So now that he's reverted back to his human form, they say, it must be very painful. I guess that's because of his injury or his illness.
His like
before.
mysterious ailment. That's what I interpreted it as.
Okay. So if you can become a squid, you can live pain-free and healthy, but you're just a squid.
You're just a squid.
But then at the end of the movie, I believe he's human. I'm jumping ahead because there's a joke of both of them being human.
Right, yeah.
So maybe, maybe his mysterious ailment was like psychological as well.
That's possible, yeah.
Not really explained that much, but
No.
okay, so we get to the big match, and then the twist is bad guy shows up and he's an octopus.
So funny.
So yeah, earlier on, his manager, Iwata's manager, had taken Taguchi aside and said, if you want to win this match, you're going to have to come with me to, I think it was Pakistan or something like that.
Yeah.
For practice and meditation. And then, he shows up in the ring as an octopus. So it's squid versus octopus.
And it's a pretty
And
good
it's just
fight.
like,
And you're
people
like, okay.
slapping tentacles on each other. And I think he turns human at one point, or is that later on?
What was that?
Because he turns back into a human because he's like, I'm so scared. Oh no, that's later on. So I'm jumping ahead.
But Squid versus Octopus sounds like an asylum movie. Am I right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it'd be like Mega Squid versus Croca Octopus or something like that.
I think at one point he squirts ink into his face.
Yeah, that's the most illegal move in wrestling.
I was just waiting for that. I'm like, oh come on, they're gonna like spray ink.
Yep. My friend Adam is really into wrestling, and when we would hang out back at the video store where we worked, he would always show me videos, and he'd become like obsessed with like the worst things, like wrestlers hypnotizing other wrestlers.
Illegal.
Yeah, there's one where that's the most illegal move in wrestling, and it's a wrestler takes off a luchador mask to reveal he's a werewolf underneath.
Man, wrestling is wild.
Yeah.
It's just, where can you go with these storylines, at some
I
point?
know. You have to do it like 5 hours a week. I have a book at home. It's called Wrestle Crap, and it's like all the worst wrestling gimmicks. Like the most famous one is the Shockmaster, which is made a big deal, even though it's not really. Is that they like built up this guy, and then he like burst out of a wall, but he tripped and his helmet fell off.
Oh no.
And the helmet is just like a stormtrooper helmet they like painted with glitter.
Sounds amazing.
Or like, what was another gimmick is like, there's a giant egg in the arena, and for weeks and weeks, it's like, we don't know what it is. And then it breaks, and it's just a giant turkey man. Like, he's like, I think it's the Goofy Gobbler was his name.
Oh my God.
I mean, RoboCop has wrestled, Chucky has wrestled, the Killer Doll.
Oh, that's right. Hey, Donald Trump has wrestled.
That's right. David Arquette won the belt.
Oh, because he was
David
promoting
Arquette.
that stupid wrestling movie that he was doing.
Yes, and that's haunted him since then. There's a new documentary coming out called David Arquette. I think it's You Can't Kill David Arquette.
What?
And it's about him getting into the indie wrestling scene after
God.
a heart attack, like a few years ago.
Oh my
Remember
God.
that article? Like he slit his throat?
What?
I had no
going
idea
around.
about any of
I
this.
know nothing about David Arquette.
Yeah, David Arquette was like just doing like a local wrestling show, and it was like a death match, which are the ones that are extra violent. And I think somebody like it was an accident, it wasn't on purpose, like slit like his artery on his throat. So
Oh my
like
God.
literally Luke Perry was
Jesus.
there, and he like grabbed David Arquette, and they went in the hospital, Luke Perry and Arquette together.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yikes. Well, I forgot to mention one other thing. We know a friend who we have a friend who is a wrestler. He's like a smaller time wrestler, I think. I don't know. In Canada, and his name is Big Cat Henson, I think.
I think so.
And he wears a cat suit. But that's pretty cool that like that you can be a wrestler. Like anyone can be a wrestler, and that can be like you can live your dream.
Well, it's funny, when I worked on The Wild, that was like a Disney movie directed by my friend Steve Williams, Spaz is his nickname. His buddy would show up from time to time, who was a stuntman, and he would work on all these big movies. He was in like X-Men 2, when Stryker's men storm the X-Mansion, and then Wolverine pins the guy to the fridge.
and stabs him.
He was that guy. I forget his name, but he wrestled in Japan as a wrestler called the Android. And he would show up. We would do beer Fridays. So like the whole office would go to the cafeteria and have beer and stuff like that. And he would show up from time to time. He could drink a lot. He was a really, really big guy. And he would bring along his mask, the Android.
Oh, like a robot mask.
Yeah, he would just like put it over his head. It was kind of like a luchador mask, but he'd wear it while he was drinking and stuff. And he could take the mouth off so he could drink.
And then would he like suplex you? He's
Yeah.
like, hey, Colin, oh!
No, he'd always pick me up, and he's like, yeah, like, come here. And he'd grab me by the belt, and he'd always like pick you up over like your head and stuff like that.
You know, the funny thing is the only reason I know what a suplex is from an anime I watched. Japan again.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, he would, that was his thing. He would pick you up, and he could pick up Spaz, and Spaz was like a really, really big guy, beefy guy. And he would just do it when he was drunk as a gag. And then we were out one time with this guy, Ken Kurtzinger, who played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, yes.
He's
the guy who stole Kane Hodder's role.
Exactly, yeah. He's really big. Like he's 6'5" or 6" or something like that. And this guy picked him up by the belt and lifted him over the shoulder like at a bar.
Oh my God.
It's just insane. And it was like, oh my God.
Is your story going to end with he's like, and then he died 2 weeks later in a tragic wrestling incident?
Well,
I mean, wrestling is like so dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
there's
I
a
need
wrestler.
to warn people. April was like, she's like, anybody can be a wrestler. I want to be like, no, nobody should be a wrestler.
That's a good point. We just happen to know somebody who does it, but
You were going to talk about Takayama, right? Who
Yeah.
appears as himself in this movie.
yeah. Who I saw him, and he's like, they interview him about this big Octopus versus Squid fight, and well, it's before they knew it was going to be an octopus, and they're just getting his opinion, and I was like, that guy must be a wrestler.
He
in
looks
real
like a
life.
wrestler.
You can just tell, you know.
Yeah,
And did you guys not do any research on him?
I did. So we were watching the
Okay.
movie, and I was looking him up because you could just tell like his nose is
Yeah.
kind of offset, his mouth, it looks like the guy's been beaten up like badly. But then I found out he was paralyzed, so he was wrestling and then landed on his head, I think, and broke his spine.
I think the neck, because that's like severs it, and because he's paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah, so
that's really sad.
Downer.
But what's really funny about that small scene is that he was wearing a Toys R Us t-shirt. I don't know why, but I just find that funny.
Wait, are Toys R Us completely gone now?
That's what I heard.
I
For a while, they were keeping the Babies R Us's open, and the only reason I know this is because I have a lot of friends who are young mothers who are like, I go there for all my stuff. But I think they went under.
Yeah, I remember they
Yeah.
shut down, but I don't know. I thought there was some way they were saved or something like that, or it was going to be online only. I don't know.
There's a Toys R Us in a mall near my house, but I guess I won't go be checking that for at least, 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 weeks at least.
No, man, this is the time to go.
Ooh, I hate to
now.
break it to you, April.
No, I'm optimistic about this pandemic. I think that everyone is doing the right thing by staying home, but I'm really hoping that by like April 1st, things are going to start to reopen. But
Ooh, I don't think so.
No, on April 1st, there's going to be a lot of terrible April Fool's jokes about coronavirus.
Yes, there are.
April
Well, because we're
2nd.
recording this on the 17th, and people say that in about 5 days is when people are going to start getting sick who have had it for like 2 weeks.
it's possible, yes.
Yeah, so they're thinking like another month or so is going to be.
But, China is already seeing a decline, and we're doing all the right things,
Yeah, I mean, unlike China, we're not a dictatorship that they can just like nail people into their
Their homes.
apartments and stuff.
Yes, but they've mandated that all the restaurants and gyms and stuff close down pretty much
But
everywhere.
Doug Ford, our premier, said that the malls can stay open.
Oh
Wait.
my God.
You didn't hear that?
No.
Wait, that was today? So he said everything can close except the malls?
The malls. Yes.
This is what I'm saying. Like, these retail stores are not essential services, so they should not be open. And people are being forced to work there because they need money, right?
Yep.
It's
Oh,
not
that's
right.
terrible. Well, Doug Ford, he's not a smart man.
No, he is not.
Okay, we're
All right,
doing
so-
the Canadian commentary. We're slamming the premiere on our podcast.
Yeah, you take that.
Doug Ford,
Except
brother of
if you're a
crack
conservative
smoking.
listener, we know that you're one of the good ones.
Exactly. All our listeners are our
No, wait. Only Patreon subscribers.
Yeah,
If you're not a
they're
Patreon
the
subscriber,
really
you're
good
bad.
ones.
So let's get into the second half of the movie. So obviously, Squid, Calamari wins the Octopus versus Squid match.
Yeah,
and then
and
he becomes a big star.
I thought we were winding
You
down.
say obviously, yeah, but he could have lost and then had to like regain his honor.
He kind of almost lost, but then he comes back. And this is around the time when I realized that this movie is an amalgamation of the first 3 Rocky movies
Yes.
to a T.
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta say, yeah, to
Mr.
Mr. T.
Good one.
What was your favorite part, April?
Well, I'm going to go for something a little different because there's so many good things about this. I'm going to say
Yeah.
the music.
Ooh.
Because first of all, this show has a awesome opening credits song. What is it called in an anime? It's called like OTP or something.
Oh,
You would know.
I forget.
Why asking us?
I forget what it's called, but basically it's like an animated opening with credits and a cool pop song, and this movie has it. But also throughout the movie, there's a really good mix of like sincere stuff and like songs that kind of sound like their video game music almost, like like a Street Fighter kind of like arcade game when they're like wrestling and stuff like that. And I just think it was very perfectly matching. It was very appropriate for this movie, and obviously they didn't have a lot of money, so they didn't like spend a lot of money on it, but they didn't need to because it was just perfect. It matched.
They
What was your favorite part, Colin?
Oh, the costumes.
I thought that we were only going to get one big rubber costume, and we ended up getting 3. Yeah.
Which are
Yeah,
great.
because I mean, we can jump into the story where suddenly Calamari is on a date and a new challenger steps up.
out
a
of
new
nowhere.
challenger approaches and ambushes him on the street and punches him out.
And it's
Because it's Squilla Boxer.
Squilla Boxer, which is hilarious. And it's this really like high pitched voice.
Yep.
Yeah, Squilla, I'm guessing, is a lobster-like creature.
It's like
It's actually a shrimp.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a shrimp.
Yeah, a Squilla mantis, I think, is like the. It's a type of shrimp.
Yeah, I actually tried to. I'm like, is squid an expression? And yes, it is. It is actually the name for a kind of mantis shrimp.
Okay, so it would be like if we called it like the prawn boxer or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't really roll off the tongue.
How about
Prawn boxer.
langoustine boxer?
Langoustine
Whoa.
boxer.
That's a kind of shrimp.
Ooh, is it like the French?
I think so.
I have to say that my favorite part, though, is at one point the squid goes on a date and he wears like little glasses.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The thing is, his
sunglasses?
eyes are huge, so they don't get big glasses. They get tiny, regular sized glasses.
And he does say, "How could anybody recognize me in my disguise?"
Yeah.
Another favorite part is when the squid does a double take, and it's really hard to do that in a gigantic squid outfit, but he does it. He does it, and it's hilarious.
Like the squid is not only just like immobile, but its eyes do blink every now and then.
Yeah, which are
Yes.
really cool. He's got some. That's the thing I liked about the suit is that the eyes are kind of expressive a little. Like he's always like kind of squinting. You can tell when he's angry or like seething with anger.
It can't do much, but
Yeah.
what it can do, it works.
It's pretty expressive. I think it's really funny.
And then it comes to the big final match between the squid and the shrimp.
Yeah.
And the shrimp is a boxer. He's got little boxing gloves.
Yeah, that doesn't seem fair. The squid is at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And the box, I mean, wrestling, I don't know if there's any particular rules, because the whole idea is that, like, the rules get just thrown out the window anyway.
Yeah.
Because, like, the ref is not looking or he's bought off, so...
When you have like a squid fighting, a shrimp with boxing gloves,
What do they call it? Like the seafood special
the
match? or
seafood
something?
special.
Yeah.
But what happens is Octopus Man is no longer an octopus because he lost, so he's reverted back to a man, and he
He becomes the Apollo Creed of this movie.
So he gets like he's like drunk in a bar, and the reporter is like, Squid needs your help. He's gonna die in that ring if you don't help him, and so he decides to train
Yeah.
Calamari.
Yeah, so it's like the former champion coming back, just like Apollo Creed kind of training Rocky.
There's a great line where he's like, if the squid loses, you'll never be able to defeat him.
Yeah, it really puts it into perspective for him, and then he decides to do that. And one thing I wanted to mention is that the thing about this movie is that it's kind of PG. Like you could there's some like fighting in it, but it's not violent. No. And the only thing that's a little bit on edge is that scene in the bar where the guy is like saying to those women, like, you ever had sex with an octopus before?
Oh, yeah.
I can use my suckers on you. And like that's as like lewd as it gets.
Yeah, otherwise it's very kind of goofy and
Like
funny.
this could play on like a child's television network or something.
I was going to say that it was horrifying when finally they get in the ring and the squid and the shrimp boxer duke it out.
Oh yeah.
The final move is a squid ripping the shrimp's arms off.
Yeah, which we're okay with because it's a crustacean.
Hey, children eat shrimp in restaurants.
That's right.
Hey, we just
But he's
had
screaming in
lobster
agony.
recently. Yeah.
Hey, do you find this like little shrimp arm with like a boxing glove on it?
Like, what the heck?
Your file, you go to Mandarin buffet.
Something.
But I love that scene that you were talking about earlier, Justin, in the cafe, because it's like the squid is now like full of himself. He's going shopping. He's ordering champagne. Women are going up to him and getting autographs. Also, there's like squid versus octopus like ramen noodles you can buy.
Yeah, where both flavors, squid and octopus, are together.
And you see all the wrestling bosses like eating the ramen and stuff, and all their lips and teeth are covered in like ink.
So he's got the
Yeah.
corporate sponsorship, and that's supposed to show that he's become soft. But
It was kind of like Rocky 3, basically.
Exactly.
Where he
Yeah,
becomes
exactly.
this rich sort of celebrity.
But what I don't understand is the whole like he gave into his desires and then he turned back into a human the first act. Why didn't that happen in the second act when he's like living the high life? He's given into desires all over the place, right?
He says it. He says, "I am more in control now." At one point, it's asked of him.
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
the former manager kind of meets him in the hallway at one point, and he says, "Oh, you're looking well. Look like you've got control of your desires."
So even though he's like a big celebrity, he's not like he's in control of his destiny or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, or his desires.
Let's
He's
go with
not
that.
eaten by lust. He's eaten by the need to win.
These are not very hard and
hard and fast rules. Yeah, it's because the whole
Who
humans
knows?
turning into things is not really explained, but that's okay.
And it's kind of
Yeah,
at one point, I think it's on their date, when after he won the match and he's a huge celebrity now, he kind of mentions that his mother was a geisha and he never knew who his father was. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of like planting the seeds. And then Squilla, he tears Squilla's arms off. And then
Squilla starts to like smoke, and I was like, oh, is he gonna turn into Super Squilla?
He steams.
one can hope.
Yeah.
You've seen too many Godzilla movies, I think.
No, that's the ending of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze.
Oh, is it really?
So at the end, Shredder like uses the ooze on himself to turn into Super Shredder, played by a wrestler, I think Kevin Nash.
Oh, really?
Nash, oh.
Yeah, he turns into into Super Shredder and then just kind of like knocks some pillars over, and like the building falls on top of him.
Oh,
So he's not even a big fight or anything.
defeated by his own strength.
That's right. And so the steam parts. Squilla opens to reveal it's the manager.
But without his glasses and fake mustache, they now recognize him as Goto-zan, who is like a famous old wrestler from way back in the day.
They've been talking about the whole movie and saying like he started the wrestling craze, I guess, in Japan.
And then they walk up to each other and they do, I don't know if you guys are aware of the test of strengths kind of stuff, where you slap the other person.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what they were doing.
Yeah. Or you like grab the hands. And basically, like, if you watch any wrestling match, wrestlers can't like go hard the entire time. So there's a bunch of like time filling stuff they'll do at the beginning of matches.
Just so they can catch their breath.
Yeah. And they can just kind of like ramp up to the big moves.
Right.
But before I was like, oh, is there going to be a whole other wrestling match? Nope. Because a big reveal happens.
Yeah, so this man embraces the two fighters who are now human now. Squid has turned back into a human, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And says, what does he say? My
He's
sons.
like, I'm
both
proud
of your
you, sons.
fathers.
I didn't know that they were related. I didn't know they were brothers. Maybe they didn't know.
Nope.
No, they didn't know.
It's never hinted at.
No.
Yeah, so that's the end of that, and everyone cheers. And then the real ending is, what's his name? Calamari.
Calamari, human now, with his human
he's
girlfriend.
human now. He's with his girlfriend, probably now wife, and they had a baby, and it's a little baby squid.
Yeah, they don't show it, but it's like silhouetted by the sun. And you see that she's holding a baby,
so
and then he
cute.
comes and holds it up. And it's like the
I kept
silhouette
expecting them to like chow down on it.
Yeah.
of it.
So it's very tongue-in-cheek, and it's just a very adorable, cute ending. And I felt like it was like a feel-good movie. It has all the fun of like a
sure.
sports movie
Definitely.
with a rubber monster movie, which is, you'd see in a horror movie, although this is not a horror movie.
Yeah, it's very fun, very kind of charming. And I just like the tone. I like the fact that it takes itself, for the most part, very seriously, just like a straight-ahead drama. And you could easily just swap out the calamari with just a human, and it really wouldn't affect.
It probably wouldn't be as interesting. But
Yeah, definitely not.
The structure is there.
Because you've seen this story a million times before. It's just an extra little bit of flavor. It's like, oh,
Yeah, that's right.
He's a shrimp, but it wouldn't affect the story in the most part.
Some seafood flavor.
Yum yum.
Yeah.
They'd have to change the name, of course. It couldn't be Calamari Wrestler, unless he really liked eating calamari.
Yeah, he just loves like chowing down. Have you guys ever had calamari?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the big kind of like, because you see it in this movie, like flattened kind of stuff.
No,
That was like calamari jerky.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get that here. Maybe in Chinatown.
I'm sure. Yeah, I've never had it that way. That looked like a giant. It was like a big dried piece of.
mean,
it wasn't even a piece. It was like a full squid.
I'd eat it. It looked good.
It didn't look good to me. It was like a big piece of leather that was shaped like a squid.
Yeah, well, I love battered and fried calamari, and I really enjoy grilled calamari as well. But it's hard to. I'm a little more wary about ordering that because it has to be cooked perfectly for it to be really good.
Yeah, if it's overdone, it's just like eating rubber rings. It's really gross. I think that's the kind that most people
Is
have
it
had.
poison? If it's not.
It's just chewy.
Yeah.
No, it's just the texture is just it's like eating an eraser rubber or
Wait,
something.
Justin, can you not have calamari? It's not a shellfish.
No seafood.
It's not a
Nothing under the
shellfish.
sea.
So anything from the sea you can't eat?
Yeah, exactly.
Bummer.
What if I threw a hamburger into the sea?
Well, I wouldn't eat that hamburger.
Why not?
I can eat things out of lakes, ponds, or pools. So alligator and crocodile are fine, I assume.
So you can eat like trout and stuff?
No, I can't. I'm being sarcastic.
What if I throw a hamburger into a pool?
I'm gonna eat that hamburger. Yum yum.
The chlorine disinfects it.
Yeah, but then so would the salt in the sea.
Yeah, extra salt.
Don't have to season it.
I always want to thank the Patreon subscriber who recommended this movie. Great pick. And as Justin, you said earlier when I told you guys that you're like, well, it's not really a bad movie, and that's right, it's not. But I can see somebody like scrolling past this and being like, the Calamari Wrestler, and there's like a picture of like the
costume,
the
or
squid
something
on front, and yes, it's I could see anybody thinking this is stupid, this is silly, and not giving it a chance. But once you give it a chance, I just find it so heartwarming.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you saw the cover of the DVD, you would probably scroll past it, or
I think so.
Think in your mind, oh god, this is going to be one of those asylum movies, but it's definitely not. It's really fun, very charming.
Yeah.
Very cute.
All right, I guess now we wrap things up as we stare off into the distance.
Yeah. So that was for our listener request listener request episode for our Bad Movie Lottery. So if you head on over to the Patreon and you subscribe at the $2 level, you can be part of the draw that happens, as we say, every few months. And at the $5 level, you get a little bonus episode every 2 weeks. And this one next week is going to be on a couple of Gerard Butler movies. One in particular. Should we spoil it?
Yeah, spoil it. We want people to become Patreon subscribers.
Let's make a game of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can guess right, we'll give you
win a no prize.
Yeah.
Wait, have you guys ever heard of what a no prize is? Yeah, so Marvel used to do this thing where it'd be like, the Punisher says his favorite gun is the 45, but then later on he says his favorite gun is a Uzi. Which one is it, Marvel? And then if you sent them a letter, they would say, oh, congratulations, you found a mistake, you win a no prize. And they would send you an envelope that says no prize, and there's nothing inside of it.
Well, they took the effort to actually send something.
Yes.
It's just a big piece of Stanley's poop.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just a quick, wrap up as far as like, the quarantine and the social distancing that's happening right now. We're going to keep recording. So still going to have episodes every 2 weeks, and then the Patreons every 2 weeks because we can record remotely. And so we're staying in and staying safe. I am a freelancer, so working from home is actually normal for me. But there's not a lot of work right now because there aren't really any productions going on. So it's been pretty quiet around here. But if I can give any advice to anybody else who's stuck at home, it's try and just like get up and get moving a little bit. There's a lot of free workouts on YouTube and stuff that you can do, from your home, from a small office. It doesn't take any equipment, and it really helps kind of break the day apart. And so you're not just staring at your computer all day or watching TV all day. And that's my advice. And watch anime, because anime goes by really fast because they're only 22 minutes per episode.
I'm going to try to do little things around the house.
That's your advice? Little things around the house?
Little projects that have been putting off, like, fixing holes in walls and stuff like that.
No work and no play. Like Colin a dull boy.
Justin, what about you? What have you been up to this quarantine?
The same thing I always do. I work from home as well, so no changes.
Yeah, but do you have any advice for people who are bored?
The same thing you said. Just like do exercise. Even in quarantine, you can still go for walks, and as long as you don't get close to anybody, basically, and you wash your hands when you get home.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you stay in and you do nothing, you just sit in a chair the entire time, you will go nuts.
Yeah.
And also, you have to form a schedule and do different things, because that will also like really bug you if you don't.
Yeah, I agree. Much like Colin has a real problem with this. When we sit down and we say, oh, let's watch a movie, you end up scrolling through movies for like an hour, and then you can't pick anything. So say like, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to eat breakfast, I'm going to watch this show, then I'm going to work out for a bit, then I'm going to watch this movie, and then I'm going to do this, and maybe also try and read a little bit.
Yeah, just keep a routine.
Something I'm not doing enough of. Read books.
Yeah, what?
It's good
it's so hard.
I know it's definitely hard, but it's good good to not look at a screen for a bit. Or like you said, go for a walk and listen to a podcast. And not even our podcast, just any podcast.
All right, yeah, that's
okay.
it for us.
Yeah, that's it for this week. So if you want to tweet at us, we're at No Such Thing Pod, and you can send us an email at no such thing as a bad movie at gmail.com. And my Twitter and Instagram is at April at Mansky.
You can follow me on Twitter, Decloux, DECLOUX, the letter J, or listen to the Important Cinema Club every week, or follow me on Letterboxd, just Justin Decloux.
And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA.
And that's it for this week. Thanks for listening, and thank you to all our patrons over on Patreon, and all our regular subscribers. And I just want to say to everyone, stay positive, stay safe, and stay sane. I'm April Atmansky.
I'm Justin Decloux.
And I'm Colin Cunningham.
And there's no such thing as a bad movie.
Ow, wolf cop.
That goes way back.